Hey, it's Maximo and welcome to Maximo's Travels. We stayed for one unforgettable night at the View Hotel in Monument Valley, Arizona. And in this video, I'll share my experiences of staying at the hotel. I'll review all the facilities, the room, and the restaurant. I'll show you some of the stunning scenery you can see from the hotel, both at sunset and sunrise, and pass on important information to make your visit to Monument Valley an unforgettable one. We stayed for one fantastic night at the View Hotel, one of only two hotels in the immediate vicinity of Monument Valley in Arizona. We arrived at the hotel just before sunset, and before checking in, we made our way to the observation area to witness one of the most spectacular sunsets I've ever seen in my life. Sunset over Monument Valley. The hotel sits right on the rim of the valley. It offers stunning views from an observation deck, its restaurants, and even the balcony of the hotel rooms. After being blown away by that sunset, we found reception, checked in, and started to explore the hotel. I was surprised to learn that this hotel opened in only 2009. It certainly had a much older design, look and feel. The hotel lobby and lounge that was just off the reception area had an old school feel and design aesthetic about it. It reminded me of like a turn of the century hunting lodge that you see in some of the Hollywood movies. As this is only one of two hotels in the immediate area, you need to book well in advance. We booked about 6 months in advance, and bookings open around 9 months in advance. We booked this hotel directly through the hotel website. It cost us $215 to stay, plus a $20 amenity fee. The amenity fee included a $20 gift voucher to the gift shop, as well as a continental breakfast. Entry to the Navajo Tribal Park was separate and cost $8 per person each. I was taken aback by the views from some of the huge windows in the restaurant. And speaking of restaurants, there's only two in the whole of the Monument Valley area. If you continue walking down a long corridor, you'll find the gift shop. The gift shop is called the Trading Post, and it's quite large. It sells quite a large variety of American Indian artifacts, including earthenware, beads, and leather goods, all locally made. Some of the items were quite intricate and quite expensive. They also sell the more traditional souvenirs such as t-shirts and fridge magnets, and I bought myself a t-shirt as well as one or two tasteful fridge magnets. It was actually quite fascinating. They had a fantastic collection of beads that really intrigued Joe, as well as being part museum and part gift shop. And interesting, the $20 gift voucher that you receive on booking only applies to the traditional Native American Indian artifacts on sale, including dream catchers, but it didn't apply to fridge magnets, hats, or t-shirts. The Trading Post is open during winter hours from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. This footage was taken when it was closed. Hotel guests are free to have a browse, and it's quite useful because we were able to make our selections the next day when it opened with a minimum of fuss. We headed back to the restaurant to have a meal. The restaurant is in two parts. There's a small cafe that sells drinks and a few snacks, as well as the hotel restaurant called The View Dining Room. As we were waiting to be seated, it was interesting to note that the hotel served hotel guests only after 7 p.m. They only accepted credit cards, and it was dry. No alcohol was allowed on any part of the Navajo reservation. And once we were seated, the views from the restaurant were utterly breathtaking. I don't think I've been to a restaurant that's had better views. Unfortunately, the food in the restaurant didn't live up to the views. It was, well, terrible. It's my salmon and vegetables. And you've got a quesadillas, Joe.
Quesadilla.
quesadilla. Almost looks like a pizza, doesn't it? Joe's quesadillas were the only thing on the menu that was vegetarian, and my fish dish was the only thing that was gluten-free. Joe's dish was okay, but mine was basically frozen fish and frozen vegetables. Bland and tasteless.
The next morning,
we wanted to make the most of our stay as we were only staying for one night. The next morning, we woke up just before sunrise and set up our cameras to take in the absolutely gorgeous view of Monument Valley at sunrise from the luxury of our hotel room's balcony. It was just before 7 a.m. and the temperature was hovering around -2 Celsius, about 28 degrees Fahrenheit. Freezing compared to the temperatures that we're used to in Australia. Here's a time lapse of the video that I took from my balcony. We got dressed and the first thing we did was visit the visitor centre. This is located one floor below the trading post. We got there just on 8 o'clock as it was opening. In order for us to buy tickets to the Monument Valley Navajo Tribal Park and enable us to do the 17-mile loop trail. Tickets to the tribal park cost $8 US per person, and with tickets secured, we made our way to breakfast at the View Hotel dining room. And I've got to say, the trading post was a lot more inviting during the day with the sun streaming in than it was at night. It was almost a little bit spooky at night, really. We made our way to breakfast, and I'd like to say that the food at breakfast was just as good as the views from this dining room. Unfortunately, I can't do that. Breakfast was adequate at its best. The coffee was average and served in plastic cups, which didn't improve the taste one bit. There was also very little in the way of gluten-free foods. There was a cereal station, and they did serve limited amounts of hot food, including pancakes, sausages, hard-boiled eggs. They also provided fruit juices, limited amounts of fresh fruit, yogurts, and a selection of fairly average pastries and bread. Both Joe and I were able to scrape together a few items that would see us through for the next few hours. I definitely wouldn't come to the View Hotel if you're a foodie or into nice food, that's for sure. We made our way back to our room after breakfast, and I've got to say that with the sun streaming in, the lounge and lobby area looked a hell of a lot more inviting during the day than it did during the night. And now for the moment you've all been waiting for, the room tour. I've got to say that the room was quite spacious, and the decor looked, well, quite a few decades old actually. Even the hotel had only been opened about 15 years or so previously. We'd booked a room on the ground floor with 2 queen beds. The room was reasonably spacious with plenty of room for your suitcases. It had a coffee machine, a widescreen TV, and a small desk. There was an adequate amount of light at night and an adequate number of power points, but there were no USB charging points at all. The Wi-Fi in the room was non-existent, and being in such a remote place, we hardly had any cell phone reception either. So apart from a couple of channels on the TV, that's it in terms of entertainment. I don't recall there being a fridge in the room, and the hotel was totally dry, so no alcohol was allowed to be brought into the premises. The bed and pillows were quite comfortable, and the sheets clean. The air conditioning was quite effective and quiet. The bathroom was clean, reasonably spacious, functional, and had an adequate amount of storage for your toiletries. The styling did look a bit dated, however. That might have been more to do with the earthy colours in the bathroom rather than any styling or design features, I think. The shower was quite adequate and some complimentary toiletries were provided for you. All up, I'd have to say the room was a pretty good standard and comfortable. But I think the primary feature of the hotel is its location, sitting right on the rim of Monument Valley. That's the hotel you can see, taken from the valley floor. And it's the only hotel that's located fully within the Navajo Indian Reservation. And clearly the reason to come here is the utterly stunning views that you can get from the hotel, from the restaurant, from the observation towers, and from your hotel room's balcony. It also sets you up really, really well to do the Monument Valley Navajo Tribal Park and the 17-mile trail loop. You only have to drive about half a mile for the entrance of the trail loop, and you can get there early and beat some of the crowds, and especially in summer, set off early to avoid the extreme temperatures in the middle of the day. And just a word of note, the trail loop is not paved at all. It's full of gravel roads and dirt roads. And while you don't necessarily need to have a four-wheel drive car, they don't let cars in with low ground clearance, so a small SUV with four-wheel drive would be particularly useful to drive around here. We only stayed here one night, and I think that's plenty. So long as the weather's kind to you, I don't think you need to stay more than the one night, because about the only activity you can do is do that 17-mile loop trail. The accommodation was reasonably expensive, but it's the only one within the tribal park. If I was to come here, I would definitely recommend this hotel to you. I would give it a 4 out of 5. The room was quite good, but I think it lost some marks in the quality of the food at its restaurant and with the lack of Wi-Fi. I do hope you've liked this video. If so, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Hit that notify bell so you'll never miss another upcoming video. If you'd like to support my channel, please consider buying me a coffee or hit that super thanks button. And until my next video from Arizona, you take care and bye now.